I'm so excited to be here today and to talk to you about Instagram verification. So I know that this is something where a lot of us have really been like very apprehensive about what we want to do and how we want to move forward in thinking about Instagram verification. Um, I think that there's a lot of commentary about it. But what I want to come to you with today is everything that I thought about before investing in Instagram verification, what I think we may start to see more on that platform. And I hope it helps you to evaluate whether or not this is a good choice for you, especially if you find a lot of your wedding clients on Instagram like I do, right? So that's something to consider from the outset is where do your clients live? Where do they find you? If you find that a lot of your clients are finding you on Instagram, then that's something to pay attention to. And so it may be worth investigating paid verification a little bit more. I also want to talk a little bit about the mindset around it as well, because I think that it's very easy for us to get frustrated with changes in our industry. But the truth is that so many of us are going to have to endure change in our industry, especially if you want to be in the industry for a significant length of time. And if we're not willing to change and we're not willing to look at things differently and we're not willing to evolve as things evolve around us, it will be difficult for us to stay in business. So sometimes we're going to have to really adjust the way that we think about things, the way that we evaluate things in order to ensure that we can move forward, and also so that everything in our business doesn't feel like one big annoyance. I find that a lot of the time when we make changes or we're a part of changes in the industry, it just feels like a huge annoyance and we get very frustrated, and it's just not worth it. A lot of the time it's not worth our frustration. It's worth our evaluation. It's worth our analyzation. But it's not worth our frustration because that frustration is energy that we can be using elsewhere. So the first thing I want to talk about when I was considering paid Instagram verification, which like I said before, I've already bought into it because I want to test it. But my predictions before I even invested, I could see this happening across the platforms, but my predictions were that with Instagram verification in particular, I would not be surprised if being verified gives you more access to more eyes, right? The way that I think about it is that it could be almost like a paid membership, right? So there are some groups out there that you pay to be a part of, and they give you networking opportunities. This is kind of along that same vein, right? Where you're paying to be a part of a program, essentially. You're paying for this membership, and the membership and having access, paying to have access to the membership gives you the opportunity to get in front of more eyes, to network in more ways. And I also, with that being said, can see that the algorithm will start to prioritize people who have paid business verified accounts, right? Because why wouldn't they, right? Because Instagram is going to want to essentially reward you and give you a perk, right? A benefit of paying into their system. And so if you're not willing to pay into their system, which is totally okay, you don't have to. But if you're not willing to pay into your system, I could totally see that the algorithm could at some point deprioritize more organic, officially organic content. I think that people who have non-verified accounts will still have their work shown, but it will be at a much lesser percentage than it is now. And already we see it at a lesser percentage than it was at the very beginning of Instagram. I think also with my predictions for the paid verification, it's going to be important to be a verified account to protect yourself from hackers, right? That's something actually that Instagram has just come out and said that if you pay to be verified, you're going to have more security options. And I've already seen some of those benefits, not necessarily in that my account was hacked or tried to be hacked or anything like that, but in that you have access to one-on-one support from Instagram if you have a paid verified account. So, for example, I think we've all seen the onslaught of just like disgusting accounts that want to comment on our stuff, that want to interact with our stories, and it's very annoying. And so we try to report it, and then those reports don't go anywhere. Nothing happens. It's very, very, very frustrating. When that happens now, though, what I have been doing is reaching out to Instagram directly, and I usually get a notification back from them within less than 24 hours. So to me, also paying for that secure access to the one-on-one support with Instagram is very important to me. I would rather have that than have to shake my phone every time I see an issue. I'd rather report it directly to Instagram and say, this is what I am having an issue with. Can we address this? And so that access to that secure type of support is important to me, and I have liked that so far. Something else that I've also been considering in my predictions is that I don't know, right? Like, I'm not part of Instagram. I don't work at Instagram. I don't know all the ins and outs of Instagram. I have observed how Instagram has operated throughout the years, but things change, right? So I also think that as we're going through these things, if you decide to sign up for a paid account, track your analytics, review your data, see what happens over the next 90 days of you having a paid account, and then make the determination as to whether or not this is something that you want to keep up, right? I think a lot of the time when we think about where we see something going, where we predict something going, we assume that we have to just either buy into it quickly, or we assume that once we buy into it, we're stuck there. That's not true. You can always change your mind. So right now, I have the paid verification, but am I always going to keep it? I don't know, because right now I'm going through all of the data gathering phase, right? Like the research phase, to let me know, to have the data to look back at, to let me know whether or not this is a worthwhile investment. It's not like it's thousands of dollars of an investment. It's only $15 a month, but it's still something that, who wants to be paying for something that's not actually helpful, right? Like that's the long and short of it. And then I also think with paid verification, like for a long time, we looked at verification as valid accounts, right? Like these accounts that were verified were public individuals, public brands. They had a lot of clout behind them. And I think the way that we look at verification is now going to change, because people are just going to start to see it as merely a security measure, right? As opposed to a designation of importance or a designation of expert status. With all that being said, those are all my predictions, but here are my cautions. And these are the things that I thought about too as I was signing up for this. So I want us all to understand that becoming verified on Instagram may create more opportunities for more people to see our stuff, but the market will remain saturated, right? The market is still saturated. For most creative businesses, it's not, it's a rare business niche that we find that is not saturated. And so buying into verification will not guarantee you more bookings. It will not guarantee you more reach. It will not guarantee you more money. It's not going to guarantee you more clients. It's just, it cannot guarantee those things because the market is going to remain saturated. And as the market remains saturated, the verification options are also going to go up, right? So more people are going to buy into verification. You're still going to have to essentially compete with the person down the street, right? Because the market is saturated. And so I don't want us to look at verification as a guarantee that we're going to get more business. It might help, I don't know, right? It might help, but this is something to know that even if you pay for something, you still have to do the work to make sure that you're calling into the clients that you want to work with, right? So if you're like, let's just say you bought into a program, this program taught you how to do a specific type of thing to get more clients. But if you don't have your ideal client in mind and you're not creating messaging around that particular ideal client, that strategy is not going to work. That's going to be the same here with Instagram verification. If you buy into Instagram verification, you're still going to have to do the work of being consistent on social media. You're still going to have to do the work of showing up on social media. You're still going to have to do the work of creating messaging that really calls into your aligned client, right? it's not something where if you pay for Instagram verification, it's going to be one and done. It's not going to be something where you pay for Instagram verification and you're guaranteed new clients. You're not. Nobody is. Even when you buy into things that say that there are guarantees, that doesn't necessarily mean that the guarantee is going to be able to be activated, right? It's not something where people can guarantee that you will get X number of clients or X number of dollars. It's not possible, right? Because every person is different. So if your work and your messaging are not dialed in, right? Like if you don't have that ideal client in mind, you're not writing content for them, you're not creating copy for them that makes sense to them, and if your work is not at the caliber that it needs to be for the clients that want to hire you, then verification is just going to be like null and void. Like it's going to be a waste, right? So it's up to you to take the time to identify and create messaging for that ideal client. And it's up to you to take the time to really enhance your photography skills so that the people who do see you are like, oh my gosh, like I need to work with this person. She's amazing. Her work is beautiful. And she understands who I am and how I need to be served on my wedding day. I think also, like I kind of mentioned at the beginning, another caution is that like social media is changing in significant ways and it always will. You can't ignore it. You either have to figure out how to work with it or you have to determine how to work outside of it through your own means, right? So that's not saying that if you're not on social media often, you can't get business. That's not true, right? But it is saying that if you want more business, you may want to consider being more active on social media. The way that I think about things is that if you are going to have a business, you have access to all of these tools. It's up to you to evaluate and determine which tools you want to use. And to me, the more tools you can use, the better, as long as it makes sense for where your clients are finding you, right? So for a lot of wedding photographers, that's going to be Facebook, Instagram, SEO for your website, and things of that nature. Something also that I mentioned at the beginning is like, it's not worth it to get mad about this, right? Like I said, social media is changing in significant ways and it will continue to change, right? It will continue to change. And so it's really not worth it to get frustrated about it. I think a lot of frustration stems from the idea that small businesses should have access to this. But at the end of the day, Instagram is a business charging for a service, right? Instagram is the business, the service is the verification, right? And so if they're going to run a business and make money, they need to find multiple different ways to do that, right? They already have their paid advertising, but to me, it makes sense from a business standpoint that they would ask for verification to be paid. I understand that from a business standpoint. And Instagram owes us nothing. And I know that sounds weird, but it's true. Instagram owes us nothing. We are on a platform for free that we use to advertise for free. And if we want to get in front of more eyes, and that means paying $15 a month to be able to talk to more clients that are aligned for us, I don't think that's a bad thing, right? Like we would expect to be paid for something similar. So I think it makes sense for Instagram to ask to be paid by us when we're making money on Instagram itself, right? And I think too, like kind of going back to that item that I talked about before, right? Where becoming verified on Instagram may create more opportunities for more people to see you, but the market's going to remain saturated. Something I also want to remind you here is that slow and steady wins the race, right? I don't want us to look at verification as a shortcut or a magic pill to get into the game. There's, again, like I said, no guarantee that you're going to get more clients because you paid to be a part of the Instagram verification process, right? You're still going to have to do all the work that you did before. It's just that being verified may get you more amplification than you had before, right? Or the algorithm may change to give you more amplification than it was able to give to you before. And something I do want us to be cautious about too is that as we're evaluating the social media options that we have, I think it's important for us to know that Google is starting to rank and review social media differently than it had before. So I am not an expert in SEO. I know very little about SEO. I know very little about like Google and Google Analytics and things like that. But what I think is important to know is the general idea that Google is starting to look at our social media more, right? Google is starting to use the information that we put on our social media and allow it to mean something in their search engine algorithm, right? Before it wasn't like that big of a deal, but now it's becoming more important. And so that is also something where if Google is going to be ranking you in new and different ways according to what's on your social media, the verification could mean something or it could not. We don't know yet, right? And or, right? Actually, probably more and than or. No matter what, where the way that Google will rank you, the way that we need to think about this is that if Google is going to show you in search results, no matter where they're like how they're showing you in search results, whether it's social media, website, or something else, your messaging again needs to be dialed in, right? A lot of people think that the only thing that gets people in the door is their photos. Like people will book them on photos alone. There are some clients that are out there that are like that, but the majority of wedding photography clients are savvy with what they desire, and they know that if somebody they know that if they want to hire a wedding photographer, their biggest concern isn't necessarily the photos that they produce. Like they kind of trust their wedding photographer to produce good photos, but what they really want is somebody who can support them and take care of them and cheerlead them on a wedding day. So if that's something that's a part of your brand, you need to make sure that you're saying that in all ways, in all areas that have access to you, right? So that means your Instagram, your Facebook, and your website, because it's going to start showing up more and more on Google. And that's going to impact the way that people view you, right? If all you have on your website is photos, it's a giant missed opportunity. If all you have on your social media is photos with no captions or very short, non-important captions or quotes or song lyrics, it's a huge missed opportunity, right? Because these are your platforms, these are your places, these are your opportunities to connect with people. And when you don't kind of share your values and your ethos around wedding photography, people aren't going to know what to do with that. And you're going to be much less enticing than the person next door that is doing that, right? And something also that I'd like to caution us all on is that if you don't want to pay to play on social media from here on out, like that's okay. But I can totally see that this pay to play model is going to be ongoing. I could be wrong, right? I can't see the future, but I could totally see that this could go forward. But if you don't want to pay to play, that is an option. It's an option that you can choose to take or not. Totally your choice. You can make the decisions you need to make in your business and trust that like the decisions you make will always work out for you. But if you don't want to pay to play on social media, you are going to need to make sure that your SEO on your website is like locked in and your referral based network. We can't live and operate in business in silos, right? And so if you're going to be hoping to generate new business, how are you going to be able to generate new business when you're not going to have the access or the algorithm essentially for social media on your side? So these are all things to consider. And then with the mindset around it, what I want us to know that I keep saying is it's not worth your aggravation. It's worth your analyzation. It's worth your evaluation. It's worth your research. It's worth your testing. It is not worth your aggravation. And if you are in circles that like only decide to complain about this kind of stuff instead of offering solutions or instead of doing research with you, you probably don't want to be in those circles, because when people complain a lot around us, we just take on the complaint. And if that's truly not what we want for our business and not what we want for ourselves, it's literally not worth it to stay in those circles. I can't tell you how many times I have seen people complain about some new whatever social media thing over the 13 years I've been in business. Like social media has changed so many times. Instagram itself has changed so many freaking times, right? But what does complaining do for us? Literally nothing, right? Like we can acknowledge that we're frustrated. We can acknowledge that we wish things didn't change so much for us. We can acknowledge that, sometimes we implement strategies that then don't work after the fact because things change, right? But we can acknowledge our feelings and move forward towards solutions, right? So if you have any questions about this, I love to talk about this kind of stuff. I think Instagram is a fascinating platform. It's where the majority of my wedding photography clients find me. And I think it has some of the best messaging opportunities and options as opposed to any other social media channel. And with this potential of TikTok not being a thing in the US anymore, the potential, right? Like we don't know what's moving forward. I foresee that we're going to see more of an influx back towards Instagram as opposed to any other social media channel, because Instagram has this like the very same and similar tools that TikTok had. So we're going to see a lot of people come over from TikTok to Instagram. So those are all of my predictions. Those are all of my thoughts. Like I said, I think this is a fascinating topic. I am so interested in it. So if you ever want to chat more about it, chat with me in the DMs. If you have any questions about working together for like one-on-one mindset mentorship, or if you have any questions about the course that I have available, also send me a DM. I'm always happy to chat. And something that I always tell people too is that any conversation is not a waste. Chatting with me on a Zoom consultation, not a waste. I would rather we understand what your needs are and whether or not I'm aligned to serve you, then you not get the support that you need, whether it's from me or a referral that I'm able to give to you. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a great day.